Suprabhatam, friends. Is another interesting topic by Swami Vivekananda, which I am talking based on Complete Works Volume 2, is Bhakti or devotion. Bhakti or devotion, when it comes, is a very interesting topic and apt for the present world full of strife and so on. Bhakti or devotion is based on personal God. And this personal God, when you talk about, is there in almost every religion, except maybe possibly in Buddhism and Jainism. But there also, the Bhakti is there very much, because they worship the founder of both the Buddhist and Jainism. Bhakti or devotion is basically worshipping or our devotion to some higher ups, from where we reflect back the love which is universal in nature. And this is getting manifested through different forms. Lowest form is rituals. We go to different temples, churches, offer our prayers and seek the blessings. So this is more or less a most lowest plane of devotion, bhakti. In this, Swamiji very nicely giving, through very justified reasons, the path, the ways to achieve this. Throughout the history of this world, we try to abstract. We have seen this, that the human beings trying to get the abstract through thought forms or through symbols. This symbolism is very important in the Bhaktiman. Through different music, through different idols, through different thoughts, talks, images, books, rituals, we express our devotion to our personal God. Interestingly, from ages, time to time, many reformers have come to deviate from these symbols and rituals. But these all have gone in vain, because they are very much part and parcel to develop the devotion, the bhakti in ourselves and reach the ultimate of human being. In fact, it is really vain to preach against the use of symbols. And why should one be preached? Swamiji is saying against this. There is no reason why man should not use symbols, because through the symbols one can achieve the abstract which is behind all the symbols, and that is what important aspect. It is very good to be born within the limits of certain forms that help the little plant of spirituality. Swamiji is saying this. And when we talk about the symbolisms, they are not so if suppose we are keeping the symbols, rituals and saying this is the end of it, no, that is wrong. If you are using it as a path to means to achieve that from this lower stage to higher stage, that is good and it is right. Swamiji is saying that one should not mistake this development of the soul as meaning anything intellectual, because a man of gigantic intellectual may be spiritually a baby. You can verify this very interestingly, Swamiji's statement, that we believe that God is omnipresent. How do I believe God is omnipresent? We can think of a vast ocean, infinite sky, but that is at the end. These are all symbols which are basically trying to tell us through these limited forms an abstract idea, what we call God or personal God. To achieve this are idolaters. We believe in idols. Is that bad? No, it is not bad. We are born idolaters. We are spirit that has no form or shape, spirit that is infinite and not matter. So, anyone who can grasp this abstract, who cannot think of himself as he is except in and through the matter as the body, is an idolater. And yet, how people fight among themselves, calling one another the idolaters. We have to get rid of this childish nature of our idol. We should get out of this kind of fighting and saying that my God is best, yours is no. That should not be end of our devotions. Statement, very interestingly saying that heart of all this ritualism, there stands one idea prominent above all the rest. There is a worship of a name. What is a name? Name has got many things. In fact, when we talk about God in our Hinduism, we refer to a name of Rama, Krishna, and others. And it's not only in Hinduism, in Christianity also. A name is to be very sacred. In the Bible, it has been there. The holy name of God is considered sacred beyond compare, holy beyond everything. It was the holiest of all names, and it was thought that this very word was God. This is quite true. What is the universe but name and form? The Swami is saying. Can you think without words? No, it is not possible. Words and thoughts are inseparable. If we can try to do that, but it's not. If you bring one, the other will come. So it's very important to understand that again we see in different religions many personages, saints are worshipped, or the gods we call. We worship Krishna, they worship Buddha, the Jesus, and so forth. And also the worship of the saints. Hundreds of them have been worshipped all over the world. And why not? Because the vibration of light is everywhere. It is interesting, Swami is telling, the owl says in the darkness. That shows it is there, though man cannot see. We cannot see in the darkness, but all can see. So if we cannot see, does that mean that it is not existing? No, it does exist. So God is omnipresent. His presence, His spirit shines through the human face, then and then alone can man understand Him, the God. This man has been worshipping God through men all the time and must do so as long as he is a man. That's what Swami is saying through Bhakti. So it's been concluded that in almost every religion there are three primary things which we have in the worship of God. First is the form or symbol, next is names, and thirdly God-men. All religions have this. My name is so and so, my form is so and so, and my God-men are so and so. Yours are simply myths. That is wrong. That is called dogmatism. That should not be done. There is again in this context, Sri Ramakrishna also telling that my religion, my thing is best, others is wrong. That is the root cause of all evil in our society and can be felt in our present day situation throughout the world. If we can adapt, the others are also equally good for everybody, then this kind of unhappiness, unwanted things will not happen. These forms are important, but if you want to go beyond these forms, it is very important. We can. Now, what is this? We have to have a longing for that. There is the question. It is not in the doctrines, in dogmatisms, not in intellectual argumentation. It is basically being and becoming. It is a realization. We hear so many talking about God and soul, all the mysteries of the universe. But have I ever asked, have I realized God? Have I seen our soul? How many can say this? Yet we are fighting with each other. It is not and it is very much present in our country also. In certain times, people were worshipping Shiva. The first thing comes, Shiva is the greatest God. But the question, have you seen Shiva? Are you acquainted with him? If not, how do you know he is the greatest? Then turning to the worshipper of Vishnu, one can ask the question, have you seen Vishnu? Have you seen what kind of forms? None of them they actually know anything about God. That is why they were disputing so much. For they had hardly known, they would not have argued. And he is giving a beautiful example of a jar which is not yet filled with water, starts getting filled up with water, it makes a lot of noise. The moment the jar is full, the noise goes off. And same thing is now. The moment you understand, realize God, will not argument, will not fight with each other. And that is possible through proper devotion and bhakti. Who wants God? Do you think that all this mass of people in this world want God and cannot get Him? That cannot be. What want is there without its object outside? Man wants to breathe and there is air for him to breathe. Man wants to eat, there is food to eat. Man, what creates this? The desires, the existence of external things. It is light that made the eyes. So through the senses we are able to eat, see, feel everything. So interestingly, Swami is giving an example through a master and his disciple. So a disciple goes to master and asks him, "Sir, I want religion." The master looked at the young man, but he did not speak. He just smiled and took him to pond and pushed him in the water. After some time, when the disciple was trying to breathe and he was restless, he bring him out and said, "How did you feel?" "A breath of air." The disciple answered, "Do you want God in that way? If you do, you'll get Him in a moment. Until you have that thirst, the desire, you cannot get the spirituality, the devotion, the bhakti, what you are looking at. You may struggle with your intellect, with your books, with your arguments. We can be all these ways, but unless until you have the desire to achieve, you may not in a position to reach that goal. He is giving an interesting example, another example. A great sage used to say, suppose there is a thief in a room and he comes to know that there is gold in the adjacent rooms. Can the thief be sitting idle? No. He is all the time trying how to get the gold from the other room. Similarly, that urge, that devotion is there, then God will be there in front of you. To achieve that position, these forms and symbols are beginning to love God. Everyone says, love God. Men do not know what it is to love. If they did, they would not talk so glibly about it. Swami is saying, the world is full of the talk of love, but it is hard to love. Where is the love? How do you know that there is love? The first test of love is that it knows no bargaining. There is no question of, if I have this, I'll do that. If you give me, I'll do that. No, that bargaining is missing in the true love towards God. The second test is the love knows no fear. Because why I should be afraid of the person from whom I have come, whom I am loving? So the fear should not be there. And the third is still higher test. Love is always the highest ideal. When one has passed through the first two stages, when one has thrown off all this so-called shopkeeping, bargaining, etc., and cast off all these fears, one begins to realize that love is always the highest ideal. How many times in this world we see a beautiful woman loving an ugly man? Swami is beautifully explaining this. Or how many times a handsome man loving an ugly woman? What is that attraction? We as lookers on only see the ugly man or the ugly woman. But the person, the man who loves that ugly woman or the woman who loves the ugly man, they do not see this outsides. What they see and worship is the love, the ideal one. So it is not that the shopkeeping, bargaining, or in exchange of something. The wicked man see this world as a perfect hell and the good people as a perfect heaven. The lovers of God sees this world as full of love, and haters will say as full of hatred. The perfect man sees nothing but God. So we always worship our highest idol, and when we have reached this point, when we love the idol as the idol, all arguments and doubts vanish forever. The lover of God has passed through all these rewards and punishments, fears and doubts, being beyond scientific or any other demonstrations. Sufficient unto him is the ideal of love, and it is not self-evident that the universe is but a manifestation of this love. It is what is called love. Its manifestation is from the lowest atom to the highest being. Omnipotent, all-pervading is this love. What manifests itself as attraction, the sentient and the insentient, in the particular and in the universal, is the love of God. This is the Bhakti-Yoga. Bhakti, the devotion towards God. We reached a point called Supreme Bhakti, a supreme devotion, in which all these forms and symbols just fall off. One who has reached this cannot belong to any sect, any religion, any kind of groups. He or she becomes universal. They will not be bounded by any kind of bondage. Because this is the infinite love, the expression of which has been attempted by sages and saints of different nations, different beliefs, different sects. And they have reached that point where the supreme devotion, supreme love has reached, which is without any forms or any kind of bondages. True lovers of God want to become mad, inebriated with the love of God, to become God intoxicated men. They want to drink the cup of the love which has been prepared by the saints and sages of every religion, who have poured their heart's blood into it, and in which have been considered all the hopes of those who have loved God without seeking reward, who wanted love for itself only and no other conditions. This is what the Swamiji is saying in this. The reward of love is love, and what is reward? It is. It is the only thing that takes off all sorrows, the only cup by drinking of which this disease of the world vanishes. Man becomes divinely mad and forgets that he is man. Lastly, Swamiji is saying, we find that all these various systems in the end converge to that one point, that perfect union. We believe always beginning in dualism. God is separate being and I am a separate being. Love comes between, and then we begin to approach God, and God, as it were, begin to approach us. We take up all the various relationships of life as father, mother, friend, lover, son, daughter, etc. And the last point is reached when we become one with the object of our worship. I am you and you are I. I am worshipping you. I worship myself. In worshipping myself, I worship you. Therefore, we find the highest culmination of that with which man begins. Telling, at the beginning it was love for the self, but the claims of that little self made love selfish. At the end came the full blaze of light, when that self had become the infinite. That God, who at first was a being somewhere, became resolved, as it were, into infinite love. Man himself was also transformed. Swamiji is saying, the God who at first was a being somewhere and became resolved, as it were, into infinite love. Man himself was also transformed. He was approaching God. He was throwing off all vain desires of which he was full before. With the desires vanished selfishness, and at the apex he found that love, lover and beloved were one. Through these different propositions, through different examples, Swamiji has given beautiful explanations of bhakti and devotions. And as I again say, very apt for the present day world, where through the devotion, through bhakti only, the world will become natural again. Hari Om.